if you would, just let's start with the beginning of that day and take us through that day.
Okay, and do you want to go? You want me to go? How do you want to do it?
I know nothing from that day to, I would guess, probably 2.5 weeks later, I have nothing. And then past that, I don't know sequence of events, so you're best to start.
Actually, it was a Saturday afternoon. We went to Tate Rents and rented an industrial strength aerator. He went and aerated our yard, and he went around the neighborhood and aerated several yards. He made himself a couple $100. So come Monday morning at 7 a.m., we went to load it back into the truck. So Laurence jumped up into the trailer, and he was, going to kind of guide it up into the truck. I was going to give it a little gas. When I did that, the prongs actually caught on the grade, and it just took off. You got this 600-pound aerator with 6-inch prong, 1-inch diameter, and I just followed him off the back of the truck and came down on him.
I was asleep, and then I thankfully it woke me up. I don't know why, maybe because it was such an unusual sound. My husband and he was out in the road, and my son was on the ground. I was on the phone with the 911, and thankfully my oldest daughter heard all the commotion because I didn't even think of it, but she gave me the towel, and I was holding it in, trying to keep the blood in his head in order for, him to survive long enough to get to the hospital.
The paramedics quickly were able to identify that he had a pretty devastating head injury. He was not doing well, was not breathing well, and so they got him to our trauma center just as quickly as they could. In the accident, a large metal spike had gone through his skull and into his brain. As a trauma surgeon, we have to be ready to take care of anyone, anything, any injury that comes in through our door, and this was one of those cases.
He was herniating, so when there's too much pressure in the head from blood compressing the brain, it causes one to essentially die from pressure on the brainstem ultimately. So the blood pressure goes really high, pulse goes really low. And when I think Dr. Fillmore called me, found out that he was in a coma and he was posturing, what we call. So that's abnormal movement, abnormal response to pain. So that's a serious condition. And then he came straight to the trauma operating room, and we were prepared for the usual straightforward relief of pressure by removing of the bone on the outside. We pulled out grass and soil and whatever else was there, and a lot of bone fragments. We knew Laurence was going to be with us for a while, but the first, life-saving procedure was done, and he responded. He got better.
He's always there when you need him. When I'm home and I'm doing stuff with them, he's always trying to make sure he's helping me, and he's my little brother. He's just kind of like one of the most important people I know.
Up in this room, Andre got there, and he was very reassuring, as he always is. I mean, he never promised anything, but just that he was here really made me feel a lot better. And he talked to us for a bit, and then he went to work.
We had to come up with an elaborate plan where we would reroute his blood vessels and use blood vessels from the scalp and bring them inside the brain and plug them into vessels beyond the injury so that he can maintain blood flow to the brain. And I remember drawing things in the middle of the night of how we can reroute it because it involves multiple new joining arteries. That's a fairly extensive microsurgery, and we're able to treat those injured blood vessels and not have a large stroke. And then ultimately when the swelling came down, he needed an operation to reconstruct the skull, because when the swelling comes down, you need to put something back on.
So this is actually a model
The hole in the side of my head.
of the skull. So you can see, so he's, not the bionic man, but he has a plastic head now. So, we are really, really lucky to have my son. If there's anybody in the world who is truly appreciative of Andre and his skills, and the entire team here.
His team was wonderful, and everybody in the neuro ward.
I'm not an expert, but I don't think that things would have been the same if Laurence had to be flown to Salt Lake. Planes are fast and all, but they're not that fast.
In my conversations with Andre, it was very clear to me that if Laurence had to be flown to Salt Lake or Seattle or any place else, he wouldn't have made it. that it was all timing. It truly, truly was. I've never been one to preach too much or anything, but God sent Andre to us. And I truly believe that.
Andre, he's so humble and so capable, and he draws to him such an excellent group of people. He and his team, they could do so much more good if they had more tools and resources at their disposal.
Saint Alphonsus health system has decided to build a neuro and surgical and trauma ICU to increase our intensive care capacity as well as subspecialty. We're a very active community, and we see a lot of patients with traumatic injuries while they're enjoying their life, either on the slopes, on their horses, on their ATVs, falling off rocks in the mountains, or in farming. Those patients commonly will have multiple injuries, including the brain and spinal cord. This kind of unit elevates the level of care that they will get and the intensity of the care that they will get. And that is all done to improve their outcomes. Our goal is for those patients to walk out and return to their lives.
If we didn't have a trauma center in the Treasure Valley and a trauma center of the caliber of Saint Alphonsus, Laurence's outcome would likely have been much different. Had there been a delay in his care, it's possible that Laurence doesn't survive or doesn't recover his function to his pre-injury state. And again, this is a young man who has a long life ahead of him, and we want to be able to set him up not just to survive this injury, but to thrive and to recover well. We're going to be opening up a neurosurgical trauma ICU. It's really the great crossroads of this hospital. You will have nephrologists, urologists, vascular surgeons, the general specialist surgeons, respiratory therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists. Who am I forgetting? Everyone is going to play a role. And to me, that's one of the exciting parts of a project like this is getting all of the people on board, planning, talking about what roles everyone is going to play, and coming up with ideas together how to make this intensive care unit not only the only one and the first one, but the best one in the region.